What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Unlocking Excellence with your main man, Eric Schwefel. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you stumbled across this podcast and you don't know what it's about, let me explain for you just a second. Unlocking Excellence is about accumulating the right tips, tricks, and party favors. Let's go with that today in order to unlock excellence in your life. As you can see through the podcast, if you look through the library, there are little episodes, there are single episodes, there are longer episodes, and there are, we can call them partner episodes, episodes with people who I find extraordinary. And one of them today, we do have a guest, Miss Rhonda Morris. She's going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, y'all. Rhonda and I, we've been working together for a little over 3 years. We started together in fitness, and then we moved a little bit into NLP. And I am very, very excited to talk to her today. I'm very excited to ask these questions and then to get all the golden nuggets that I can out of Miss Rhonda. So without further ado, Rhonda, what up? Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. I slept okay, but what about yourself? How are you doing today?
It is what it is. I'll just leave it at that.
I feel you. So are you ready to dive into this thing?
Absolutely.
All right, sweet. So y'all, as I mentioned just a second ago, Rhonda and I have known each other for a little over 3 years, and we first started working together at the gym. So 3 years ago, I've been open for two some odd years. I had been part of a networking group, and I knew one of the members there, and one of the members there worked with Rhonda. And I'm not sure if that's how you got wind of the gym.
Absolutely.
So that particular person, they come in, they invite you. Give me your experience. What were some of the things that you were looking for before getting into the gym? So what were you struggling with before starting the gym? And when you got there, was there anything that you were like skeptical of? I'm not really sure about this dude or the program or anything like that.
No. What happened was I was going through some difficult times in my life. I just lost my dad, just lost my dog. It's been around 15 years within like a month of each other. And prior to that, it was like trying to end a bad relationship where I ate myself out of it and gained a lot of weight. So when I went back to the gym I used to go to, let's just say I tried to go ham like I was the hour and a half, 2 hours that I was there, and spent a good bit of time laying on the floor trying to figure out where to start. I basically needed training wheels again because it had been too long. And my coworker, Stephanie, she had mentioned that I should try you. And she was actually getting really good results when she was there and everything. So I gave you a call and went in, tried it. And I was like, no, this is the environment where I need to be. The people there, Gina, Jana, they were all very welcoming. And the workouts were challenging. I remember that first week I started was peak week.
Oh no.
I got a little I got a little taste of what the harder weeks were going to be like. And I think I remember my first Saturday I spent with my feet up on a box and a wet towel over my head. But it's been a while. But no, I enjoyed it because it was challenging, but yet you were able to give me the variations until I could take the training wheels off and get back into working out. So it was nice. And the people there, the community that had built around it, had really drawn me in, and I just wanted to stay. So 3 years later, I'm still here.
That's so awesome. Thank you. The interesting, what I find interesting, right, is you mentioned it the other day too, when we were speaking. There's so many times where we think we have to spend so much time in the gym or doing certain exercises that we might not get results as if we keep going back to it. So what was the time period? I don't know if just to clarify, the time period between these losses that you experienced not having the gym and then getting back to it. So
I took about a little over a year off, maybe a year and like a month or two where I just didn't go. If I went, it was sporadically, and I just had no heart when I got there. I just didn't want to do it. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do the exercise. I don't know, something in me was just spiraling down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say the word on the air, but I hit a mode where it's just like, you just don't care.
Right.
And
you can cuss on here if it's one of those.
well, all right. So I hit fuck it mode.
Yeah.
Once you hit that, you just don't care. So you go in and you don't want to do the lift. You don't want to do the work because you're in your mind too much and not in the moment. So I spent a lot of time inside my head, and which point prior to that, I was working out an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, 6 days a week at the gym. And it's kind of strange because since I've been with you, I lift heavier now than I ever did. I pull more, bent over rows. I press heavier. Everything I do except probably legs. I don't know about that, but my legs, I still get in that leg workout, but I've never really tested it to see if I've gotten stronger with it or not, because you got the way I was doing it before, but I'm actually doing with you freestanding, I guess you can say, squats.
Yeah.
Versus like Smith machine and stuff like that. So I don't know how you would measure one to the other. I think I'm stronger, definitely, working out with y'all, which is why I've stayed. I get it in less than an hour. It's taking me an hour and a half to 2.5 hours a night, and I get 2 days off a week versus just one. So it was nice.
Right. And yeah, you get to prioritize different things, you get different results, feel better overall. There's a lot of things that come in it.
More me time as well. When you spend an hour and a half, 2.5 hours in the gym, you feel like you're still constantly working. You come home, you shower, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, you go to work, you go back to the gym, and then that's your life. So now I have a little bit more of a life than that. I can actually, eat dinner.
Actually have time to be tranquil a little while before the next day starts.
Just get mellow. It's nice.
So it's been 3.5 years that you've been in the gym now. This is going to be maybe a relatively easy question. Maybe it's going to be a tougher question. What was your first big breakthrough in the program, and a few wins that you've had along the way? Gym wise, right? We're going to get into the other stuff a little bit later, but if you can remember, what were some of those breakthroughs that you had at the beginning of your time at the gym?
Probably the one that stands out the most, like immediately from the start, that first week when you did maxes. I had never tried anything like that before. It's like never gone in and tried to get that one max or that 1 minute. And you had a 4-minute plank on Thursday. And I'm in there and I'm pretty competitive, I'm not gonna lie. And I couldn't hold that 4-minute plank, but I got to 2. And after that week, I said, you are not going back in there and crashing after 2 minutes. So literally after that first week put me in check. The second week I got a 4-minute plank, and I never looked back. So then I went from, plank on elbows to plank on hands to plank on box. And over 100, I think I'm at 108 over 4-minute planks with you since in 3 years, plus all the ones I do at home. So I don't even think about planking for 30 seconds, 45 seconds like I used to before. It's, if I'm doing it, I'm for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So that's one big, huge thing. The other one is kind of like I mentioned earlier, the lifting heavier. I didn't think that I could like pull the weight that I pull and squat with the weight that I squat with. And it's actually pretty impressive to me from where I was in the shape I was in, or the shape I thought I was in. But I really just didn't have the strength. So I don't know if I was throwing too much cardio to burn off what I was building in muscle, not sure, but you had the right combination to burn everything and build the strength and save me time. So it was actually, it's pretty great. It's been pretty great.
That would be a good, I should use that as a motto. What is it? Build muscle, burn fat, save time, something along those lines.
And you wouldn't be lying.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So good. I'm glad that you were able to experience that. So so y'all that are listening know, at the gym on Thursdays, well, I used to have a max every day, meaning after the warm up, you take about a minute and we would do push-ups or something called a sit out, a knee grab, something like the squat thrust, the burpee without the push-up. And on Thursdays, I like to have the stable plank, right? So you can, as long as your knees didn't touch the ground, you were good. And it was up to 4 minutes. And then sometimes, 5, 6, 7, 8, it just depends on the day. And if I'm feeling squirrely and who's around and all that kind of stuff. And we've had 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 members now in the years go over 100 4-minute planks. So they showed up enough times on Thursday or whatever days that we've had it. And Rhonda was one of those who has done over 400 minutes and plus in the plank position, which when you think about it, I think it's vastly impressive because most people are like, oh, I can barely hold 15 to 30 seconds, right? Because it's challenging. Now, I mean, it's just become a mindset thing. So what else, what else have you experienced in that time frame that's worthy of noting?
I'm going to go to the community. I've made some pretty good friends there. You and I have phenomenal conversations. And but Nanette and Gina and Jana and Pam and Miss Esther, Miss Brenda, all the ladies, even the guys, Paul, who's since moved away. You just have this gym community there, Christy, all of them. It's just phenomenal. Katie, even Rhonda when she comes, the other Rhonda.
About to say, are you looking in the mirror and talking to yourself? No,
no, if I'm forgetting somebody, it's not because it's not there. It's probably because I'm a little nervous being on this podcast.
yeah, it's all good.
But I mean, you got a good group of people. You happen to draw people to you that they're just good people. I like them.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. So you are getting the plank, you got stronger, you're saving time, you're enjoying the support system that you're around. Did you drop 15 pounds in 3 days?
No. Usually I gain weight when I start working out, but I happened to lose it with you. The first 2 weeks, I lost 2 pounds each week instead of like gaining, because as you build muscle, like when I would go to the gym, I would gain weight the first 2 weeks and then it'd start dropping off. So I actually started losing right from the beginning working out with you. So it was a little encouraging to where it was like, okay, maybe this guy knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about. And then I would just follow the lead. I would cheat off of Gina a lot because she seemed to be there every day with me. And she was probably a big part of me stepping up my game with getting those training wheels off. And like actually feeling comfortable to where if I go in again, I can do my workouts. I know that I can handle whatever's thrown at me, even if I do curse the whole time. But no, I mean, I did. I lost weight. I took my time doing it. I wasn't in a hurry, so I didn't necessarily eat the right regimen and everything at the beginning. So I would probably say I've lost maybe 31 pounds. It took me maybe 6 months, something like that. 6 months.
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept it off. I always stay within 5 pounds. So for the next 2.5 plus years, because we're over 3 now, but I've kept all of it off and I just kind of fluctuate within 5 pounds. Not quite where I want to be, but I haven't really put my heart into it to really get down to where I want to be. But body wise, I'm very happy with the way I look. So I'm not worried about that.
That's awesome. Thank
you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah, I totally did all the workouts and all the eating for you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you just, well, it's kind of like that, you never thank your mom for like laying your clothes out on your bed and having you ready in the morning. You just get up, get dressed, and you go off to school. Well, this is me thanking you. You
Yeah.
laid it all out and said, this is what you do, and this is the result you get. So it's like, thank you.
Oh, perfect analogy. Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So when most people get into the gym, right, what I've noticed is they go through their cycles, whether it's the week, the 2 week, the 3, whatever their particular cycle is. And you're right? Sometimes people gain weight. I just had a client tell me like, Eric, I'm getting stronger and I'm gaining weight and I'm becoming more manly. Well, not actually more manly, but more curvy. And I'm like, just keep doing what you're doing. And eventually the body will even itself out, and then you can refine it. So you kept losing. You had a great community. You're building your muscle. You don't feel like you have to rush in it, and you don't rush in it. So you're able to make this long term. I'm assuming because you did this in the past, it's a lot easier to maintain doing it in the now, right? Because you have experience. So were there any particular, what was the secret sauce for you getting these results? What's Rhonda's secret sauce in the gym?
I can simplify it very easily, but it's the hardest step for everybody, and it's just walking in the door.
Mm.
I mean, and I've said this for years. It's the hardest part is walking in the door, because you can think of them. You get in your head and you think of a million reasons why you don't want to go, especially if you don't like working out. So if you're the type of person that dreads it because you're going to be sore, because you're going to be this, my only advice to you is to show up every day, because the soreness eventually wears off. Your body gets trained enough to where you're not that sore anymore. You feel like you've used your muscles, and you'll feel, the soreness in it, but it's not that initial sore when you first start back, and every step you take, if you take a deep breath, it hurts. It's not like that, but walking in the door is the hardest part. Once you walk in the door, it's easy following the instructions, or going through the motions, lifting the weights. I mean, literally you pick shit up and you lay shit down. That's what you do. So just get there.
Just get there.
Every day.
And then once you're there, okay, so you had a coach. You didn't have a coach before. If you're brand new, would you suggest to somebody to get a trainer? What would you suggest to somebody that's just walking in? Because so the reason that I asked is, for the longest time, I used Google, right? Like, oh, I want to use my chest. I'm going to look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to find who it is that I want to look like. I'm going to read everything about what they've done, and then I'm going to go and do it. Now, I realize this might be shocking for some of the people that are hearing this, that what I just described is also an ADHD trait of getting hyper-focused on something that you enjoy. Didn't realize that for the longest time, but obsession can help because you learn with everything, right? So it doesn't sound like you became obsessed, at least not this time. What was that secret? So what would you suggest to someone for that secret sauce? Become obsessed, Google it, get a coach. What worked for you, and what would you advise?
Well, I worked at a commercial gym prior to finding Schwefel Strength. Yeah. And the commercial gym, I was fortunate enough that some of the younger folks behind the counter were friendly enough to see that I was trying to do things that maybe they could help me do better. So with some of those guys and girls, I've gotten tips, or they've worked out with me on their off time and whatnot, and showed me how to do things commercial wise at a gym, use the equipment, lifting the free weights and all of that stuff.
Right.
I got results, but I didn't get the results I wanted. Yeah, I guess you can say, until I actually started working out with you. So I would probably recommend to someone, depending on where you're at and your level, I would not attempt the commercial gym again on my own, not having worked out. There's too much equipment. It's mind-boggling if you're starting out and that's what your first thing, it's overwhelming. So it's completely too much. And if you're not a friendly enough person to start talking to other folks that are there and to get somebody to help you with that kind of stuff, you're setting yourself up to fail. You're just going to the gym to say you're going to the gym.
Yeah.
And the environment that we have at your facility, it's nice because if I come in and I'm like, hey, I sneezed wrong and hurt my wrist or whatever have you, you're like, it's cool, come in, do workouts. And then if you have to vary me from not using that wrist or that shoulder or whatever it is, you have those variances. So I'm still getting my workout in regardless of whatever issue you have, and it's phenomenal. And then if we have any issues with nutrition or anything like that, we can ask. You take body measurements, so you look at more than just the scale. And I don't really look at the scale as a measurement. For me, it's more like a tool to just kind of keep me in balance.
Yeah.
But when you take measurements, when you do that kind of stuff, you offer it, you don't push it, which is nice. But when you take it to that level, you can kind of get a bird's eye view of exactly what's going on with your body, where you're at. It gives you the capability when you start class and you give the little 5-minute talk, the little gems that you drop, that you try to improve us, just not just body, but mind as well.
Yeah.
So it's an overall, I would say, definitely try out. And I don't know how many facilities they are like yours, but I haven't come across one. So which is why I stay, because it's just all encompassing. So my recommendation to somebody trying to start would be to come talk to you. Literally, and I'm not just plugging this because of the podcast, but if you're willing to meet the consistency and actually show up day after day, they'll get the results they want. No matter what obstacle or what excuse they try to throw in their way, because you have the ability to remove those excuses and just get out of your head and do the workout. Get out of your head and do the workout, or change your perspective, change your way of thinking about something, and you pull them in. So it's a definitely get a coach. I don't want to call you a trainer because you're not necessarily just a trainer, but a coach will help. A trainer is just going to keep pushing you, whereas you're going to find those variances and stuff like that. So whatever you label yourself is what I'd recommend, because it's I'm happy with everything, and I'm not burning hours and hours and hours working out, and I like working out. So this is easy for me to get in my workout and get going.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad that you mentioned a couple of the things that you mentioned in there, and I appreciate those words. For the longest time, I'll hit the trainer coach thing first. For the longest time when I first started coaching, I'd never gotten my personal training certification. So I never wanted to be called a trainer. What I got was my certified strength and conditioning coach certification, my CSCS. And I had all my bravado and stuff because I had gotten out of college, and strength and conditioning. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be this personal trainer who has a weekend certification, right? So then when I started working at different gyms and people would say, oh, you're a trainer? I'm like, no, I'm not a trainer, I'm a coach. And so eventually I adopted the trainer name just for people, but deep down inside, I was still like, I'm not a trainer, I'm a coach. So I appreciate that you recognizing that. And then also saying, this is the gem, y'all. If you can hear, if you can listen, straight up telling you, the gem that Rhonda mentioned was getting your butt into the gym, that consistency. If you're hurt, make sure you have somebody who can give you variations, have your community, but it's just about showing up, right? And so I do martial arts as well, and I get to be put back into the student section, I guess. And so when I talk with my instructor, I tell him, I'm very honest with him. I'm like, all week I am gung-ho and ready to get into the gym, but come Sunday morning when it's time to start getting ready for martial arts, I don't know what happens. And I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like going, this, that, and the other, because I don't feel like getting beat up, to be honest. All week I do, except for that one day. And Then when I go, within 10 minutes, not even, feeling great, everything's cool. And then afterwards, like $1,000, right? Like 10 million bucks. And you get better and you keep moving. And it's the same thing I would imagine with the gym is, oh, I don't feel like going today. Just get your butt into the gym and then you'll feel better. And then the ball will get rolling and you'll feel amazing. So is there anything else worth mentioning during your current gym journey, your current fitness journey, result journey, or anything like that up to this point?
I'm sure there is. I'm probably forgetting a few things. I mean, when you're in there and you're going through the motions and talking to the people and cutting up and you come across things. But right now, being not a morning person and my brain's not fully functioning, that's about it.
Sounds like a plan. So wait, Rhonda, are you saying that you were able to laugh, have fun, cut up, and enjoy yourself while in the gym and working out?
Hard to believe.
It's hard. Oh, wow, this is crazy. So for those that are listening that say, oh, the gym is just this torture chamber that they took after Imperial England and they just made the machines to torture me, it's not really like that. We don't even have any machines at the facility, right? Like, it's
If
just,
that's what it feels like, they're going to the wrong gym.
oh, I love it. All right, good. So you've been training now for a couple of years and you're getting your results. You're seeing the fluctuations in the gym of people, of the seasons, of your own body. You're back in it. You're consistent. And then Eric says he's doing NLP and he's been talking about it for a while. He's like all excited about this. He's talking about future plans and everything. NLP, for those that are listening, is neuro-linguistic programming. It is clearing the past in the now so that you can create a compelling future using the language of the unconscious mind in order to do this, working with your unconscious mind. And it's intriguing, yet it's different. I'm talking about it here and there. I'm offering it. You're hearing about it. What are your thoughts as you're coming to that? Before you go into it, you've got this community. You've lost weight. You're happier. You're saving time. Everything that you just mentioned, and then you start hearing about this and what's going on. What's happening in your head during this time?
Well, I guess it wasn't necessarily where I felt like I needed it. But I'm one who kind of explores into that, I'm gonna say celestial area.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I kind of dip my toes in and explore. Sometimes I'll dive right in and swim around and see what's going on. And I always believe there's something more to life than what I see and every day. So my curiosity always gets the best of me, and I'm constantly looking for something new to learn. Growth mindset. I know I've mentioned that a couple times over the years, probably a couple hundred, but that's the mindset that I actually live in. So if I'm not learning something new, I feel like I'm dying. If I'm not expanding my mind, opening myself up to experiences and possibilities, then I feel like I might as well just retire, sit on the sofa and watch reruns of TV shows that I've watched for years and just wait till the end. And that's not who I am. So I'm one who actually does like to get out there and live life, experience it, try new things and stuff like that. So when you mentioned NLP, you piqued my curiosity. So I wanted to see what it was about. You kind of told me a little bit, and then you mentioned the timeline therapy, and I said, "What the hell?" I said, "Let me try this out." I just, out of curiosity, I wanted to see what it was about.
Perfect. So that's what I was going to ask was what was your thinking behind it, right? So for a lot of people, they want to go from point A to point B. A couple of the things that past clients have said had been like, I need this thing. I've done everything and nothing has worked. everything that I've tried has not worked. I've heard about this stuff. I've always wanted to work with someone who has done it. I need something different than what I've been doing, right? So this was all mainly out of curiosity, just kind of seeing what it is, how it works, and all that kind of stuff. So was there anything specific that you were looking? So you come to the gym and you're looking for results. You want a smaller body, stronger body, to feel different. Was there anything specific that you were looking to feel or experience before moving into this?
No, I actually went in with an open mind and just a curious heart. I just wanted to see what it was about. And if it could help me grow as a person, then great. But I was happy and in a really good place. It was quite different than how I started the gym workout. When NLP came along, I was like, just sort of floating through, and I was like, yeah, I think I might want to try that and see what it's about, see what I can learn about myself, about my relationships with others, things like that. So it did pique my curiosity and what I could gain or grow from it, I guess you can say.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's so important too, whenever you go into this type of work, the NLP, and I would say really any new endeavor that involves growth, is to have curiosity. Because so there's these quotes that I put on the board at the gym, y'all. And one of them yesterday was, what is this? Wealthy people don't ask. Wealthy people don't ask, what will this cost me? They ask, what will this do for me? And what that means essentially is not what is this going to take, but what is this going to add, right? And that's the approach that Rhonda came in this with, is this, how is this going to add me? Not what is it going to cost me? Not, is it going to be time? Is it going to be space? Is it going to be effort? Is it going to be sweat, right? That's why people don't like to go to the gym. What's this going to cost me? No. It's what it's going to add to my life. It's going to add energy. It's going to add vitality and so much more. So curious, open mind. And was there anything that you were skeptical of before investing and moving forward with this?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say I was anything I was skeptical about, because even if I gleaned one thing from it, it was still worth it. So for me, being forever the student, that's just how I describe myself, is that I'm constantly learning. So it's like, even if it's something I do every day, if there's a way I can do it better, if there's a way I can do it more efficiently, I do it. That's how I am in my work mode, and that's how I am in my home life as well. So I was just thinking, if there's one thing that I can get out of it to make my life a little easier, a little better, or connect a little bit more, or anything, then I was going to do it. So.
Oh yeah, that's and man, what a warrior mindset as well. Because I say warrior, I was going to say like martial art, but I was like, what? So the warrior mindset, because I mean,
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
No martial arts yet.
So, but you have the mentality. You have the mentality, because if you look at the martial artists, right, they do the same moves over and over, and it's practicing your craft. It's your craft. And the comedian tells the same jokes. The singer sings the same songs. The blacksmith builds the same structures, but with new materials. So you are repeating certain things in your life in order to grow, in order to become better, in order to establish structure, right? So with that NLP, doesn't sound like anything's too skeptical. It sounds like something new. You're in the growth mindset. Had you heard anything about it or that type of coaching before?
Not really. You had mentioned it in class and a couple times, and something you were studying, or something, some of the classes and stuff that you take. And it kind of piqued my curiosity, but I didn't necessarily reach out to you to say, hey, where are you learning it? This, that, and the other. I just kind of, you kind of tuck that little thing back in your mind, and you're like, maybe if I have time for it later, we'll reopen that discussion. So when you actually said you were looking at doing a trial run on actually being an NLP coach, and you engaged, I said, you know what, I might want to do that. Might want to try it. And then you and I had a couple conversations prior to, so I can kind of get a little bit more info, and then we went for it. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. So I did have a trial period. Rhonda came in with it. Thank you so much for that opportunity, because I think you were like my sixth. I want to say like you were my sixth client. I know you're not, you don't have that number. I want to say my sixth NLP client, because it was so awesome, right? Things happened very quickly in that. And so we dove in. What were some of your first big breakthroughs?
The first one was probably, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You kind of go through some, you make me, let's say that you made me dig up some stuff from the past to try and figure out what issues I may have to work on. And I was one that had done a lot of processing, or what that was my term for it, until I found out it was called shadow work, where you actually sit with yourself and do some of that stuff. Face your feelings, face your prior mirrors mirrors your it's literally your past mirrors and everything else, and you sit with emotions, and you sit with everything, and you just kind of work your way through them. So it keeps you from being that that kind of person that holds on to everything and just can't get out of their shit. So I had done quite a bit of that, and you actually pulled up a couple things that were examples of that I'd already gone through and processed, which was easy for me to go through again. But when you hit a question and I didn't know how to answer it, you stopped and you asked my unconscious mind. And when my unconscious mind answered, I hadn't heard that voice in so long that I was sitting there. I won't forget, because I think the first time we did that was a phone call. So it wasn't a Zoom or in person. And if you'd have seen the look on my face, I was like, my first reaction was, that bitch, she's gonna you and not me. So that was my first big enlightenment, was that I learned from you to ask simple questions, and I would get a simple answer from my inner voice that I hadn't listened to and suppressed and, disregarded for years. So being able to get back in touch with myself, with my inner self, and have that inner child just giggling and laughing and engaging in conversation again was actually really, really good. That was my first big golden nugget from NLP, and that was just a couple weeks in. So it was nice.
Oh, that's a huge one. Okay.
Yeah.
So to let people know through the process, right? We start off and we it's kind of, I've actually kind of changed it a little bit since we started. We have the fields of where we want to create things, right? So career, spiritual, home life, relationship, body, health, personal development, maybe one or two more. And what we did when we worked together was pick where you want to have those breakthroughs, right? Most people say, can I have them in every area? It's like, yeah, of course, but just, like go for one or two right now. And what I've done now is rate where that area would be first out of 1 to 10. So the client would rate, 1 to 10, what is this at? And then we revisit it at the end as to where they are at, so they can see if there was an improvement or wasn't where they decided to work. And so anyway, we get where they want to create breakthrough. We classify what type of breakthrough, what they want to have. We go through why they're here, right? And then we talk about the problem, what the problem was, and what the client has been encountering for a long time. And y'all, like she said, we dive kind of deep, right? I asked the same question like 20 times. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What does that look like? What does that look like? What else does that look like? How else? What if you looked at it from this way, right? Every angle that I can think of, until the client is like, okay, that's enough. I have it all done. I'm clear. Everything's out of me, right? So one of the first things that you experienced, the first calls, and this is just in conversation. This isn't necessarily what you've even produced right off the bat. This is just interaction, is being able to interact with that inner voice that you have again, your inner child, your unconscious mind, and you were able to get so far throughout your own life from not only the processing and the shadow band, and that I was about to say shadow band. I'm thinking about what happened to me on Instagram. But the shadow work. So processing through these decisions in the unconscious mind, things that you didn't know about, you maybe buried or you didn't have time to process at the time, right? And I speak at this as a generalization, nothing specific to you. So with that, were there, let me see how I want to ask this in particular. When you noticed that, what were notice the voice, right? Not only in that conversation, but then let's say for, I guess, the rest of the coaching that we did together, what were your initial thoughts with that? Okay, oh, I got the happiness, I'm able to interact, I haven't done this in a long time. Was there anything else that came with that?
Well, I'm still in the process of I'm going to say re-engaging that inner voice, that gut instinct, that whatever most people want to call it, but that intuition. And it's kind of been an up and down conversation, because sometimes my inner voice will go silent and try to think of questions I can ask to engage, but I end up getting, no, she's just happy and chilling. And I say she just to distinguish between me and inner me. But
right.
It was a little rocky at first, and I guess I'd have to back up, because before I joined the gym, when before my dad had passed, like 3 weeks before my dad had passed, I was studying for finals. Finals were about to come up, and I heard a voice clear as a bell, and I'm home alone. Everything's quiet, no radio on, no nothing. And it said, "Call your dad." And I said, you know what? It felt like that was inner me telling me I need to call my dad. It had been a while, and that relationship was always on and off again. So I was like, yeah, I said, it's time. I said, I'm gonna get through finals, and then I'm a calling. And he passed away 2 weeks later, and I never took my finals. So it was a little eye-opening that I had that disconnect. So I knew from that point that I needed to change, which brought me to re-engaging back into a gym environment, because I actually am one of those crazy nut heads that actually likes working out. I know it's unthinkable, but I actually enjoyed it. So I was like, I need to get back in touch with things that I enjoy. And that brought me to the gym, that brought me there, but the voice stayed silent the whole time. So from there, and before that, I guess because I argued with myself so much, and I was like, no, I have to justify it. And that's a series of, bad marriage, whatever it may be, and the things you go through, your childhood traumas, all of just life, life in general. So you have those arguments with your inner self, and you don't necessarily believe it. So when I heard that loud as day and I didn't listen, I guess you can say that she went radio silent on me for years. And then you asked a simple question and I answered. I was just like, it's that simple. And it was, but I wasn't asking questions. I was looking to argue. So I never had really engaged myself like that before. I was, still adjusting to things in life and the changes that are made, that I made or have been made around me. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, so sure.
That was huge. Going from silent to actually talking. And then now, sometimes I think I have a lesson to learn, because I was at Sam's looking for a new desk. And I know you heard me, I've told you this already, but when I was at Sam's looking for a new desk, and they had this one sitting there, $40, and something kept telling me, go back to that desk. And I was like, nah, it's not going to match. I just painted my office. I just gutted the office. I just did everything. And I'm like, no, just go get that desk, And I didn't listen. And then 2 days later, when I'm out of my head and out of my list and everything else, I was like, I'm gonna go back and get that desk, because I can I can take that top that doesn't match and I can paint it the color and paint the accent wall, and I'll have like a unique little piece of office furniture and da da da. I go back and they're all sold out. And I go online and you can't order them. And I'm like, yeah. And then you hear the inner giggle. Told you so. So it's like, yeah, I'm still not quite listening to every message she gives me, but I'm learning and I'm getting better every day. So
that's awesome. So you said something that got me, and it made me laugh, because for a long time, he probably still thinks it, but my dad would call me very simple, and it wasn't a compliment, but I'm the type of person that receives even those things that weren't meant as a compliment I'm like, oh, thanks, I know. And he says it's not a compliment, I'm like, I know. But because simple gets you far, right? It's simple things allow for ease, they allow for effortlessness, and they allow for being, for me at least, for being to take place. When something's so complicated, it's confusing, it's this, it's that, it's not what it is, right? When something's simple, it is what it is. And you allowed it to be what it is, right? Is at least what it sounds like, is you're getting to that point where you're allowing to get to what it is. And things that are so powerful, things like your unconscious mind, need simplicity. So being able to get yourself to that place of simplicity, because it is so complicated, it doesn't want more complicated, it wants simple. And so giving yourself and listening to yourself in that way is, it's just so huge. And it doesn't, I can't remember now the exact words. I can't wait to listen to the replay to find it. But you said something along the lines of just asking the simple question will help clarify. And it's like, yes, it's just simple little questions.
It is. And I can equate it to work as well. When things get complicated at work, you just uncomplicate it by the fact of breaking it down to the simple tasks. I understand it's a complicated situation and this is flaring up and this is flaring up, but at the same time, it's a simple this, and you break it down. So when you break it down into the simple steps, you eventually get it where it needs to go. You take the complications out of the picture. So it's like, you just got to move it aside to move forward. And that's kind of how I'm looking at my inner me treating me, is like, you're trying to she's telling me I'm complicating things and I need to break it down simple. That's my lesson that I'm learning from her right now, is that don't overcomplicate. Stop overthinking, stop overdoing, overcompensating over everything. Just keep it simple. So
what is that phrase again? KISS, keep it simple, silly, right? Depending on how you want to address the person with that last S. So
simple, stupid.
Right. So with that, within the first couple of weeks, and what's amazing with this process, right? So I'm currently bringing one or two more people through this process. I have several people who are kind of, I say, cleaning up. They're getting their goals. They're on their way out of the process, right? So we dive pretty deep within the first call, asking why you're here. What is it that you want to do? By the fourth and fifth call, we're clearing. We're using timeline therapy. So within those first couple of weeks, I know that you liked timeline therapy. We'll go into that in just a second. I was reviewing notes and I saw that you won money. Now, I know you as a person, you're a lucky person. You win, you have great things happen, that kind of thing. We'll dive into it in a second. So you won some money. You saw a whole bunch of repeating numbers. Now, for those that don't or just joining in and don't have a history of who I am, I like the woo-woo stuff. I like the spiritual. I like the unseen, the non-physical. And when there are patterns that erupt, that means things are happening. And Rhonda was noticing a lot of patterns in her life. She was noticing improvements in different relationships all across the board, friendships, familia, in work, with her kid, all over the place. And this was just the first couple of weeks, right? So before diving into the timeline therapy, what results do you want to speak on that were like, I wouldn't even say comparable to the unconscious mind, because that's so big, right? But what other results did you experience worth mentioning?
I actually started reaching out to some of my friends more. Started diving into, like, when it comes to relationship wise, I'm usually that solo person. So I'm like perfectly happy on my own with no one around. And I have some really good friends that reach out to me here and there who overlook that. I'm gonna call it a shortcoming because, it makes me sometimes feel cold and removed,
Right.
but not necessarily the case. And my best friend is notorious for pulling me out of my little bubble and making me experience life, even though I'm one that likes to go out and experience it. You got to get me out of the house first. So she is notorious for, nah, bitch, get up, let's go, come on. And then if I have a little wild hair up my ass, I can call her up and she's like, all right, I'm putting on my shoes, come get me. And we go. So she sometimes sees me retreat into that bubble and she'll come get me out. And here, since I've done the NLP, I make sure I'm one that reaches out to my friends to let them know, I'm not necessarily always in the bubble. I still reach out. So I kind of do that. Some relationships that I poured a little bit more into, I pulled back from. And I noticed who actually stuck around and who engaged me and who actually pulled away, and I've just let those go. So it kind of helped me weed which relationships were worth keeping and which ones probably needed to be let go.
Did you notice that it was more of a natural process with NLP? Was it something that was kind of already happening in life, or do you get where I'm kind of navigating that question?
I do, but like most of what I wanted to work on was more spiritual with the NLP and more personal. I put relationships in there for just to see where I can find room for improvement. My best friend always said, in order to get a friend, you got to be a friend. And she simplified that enough for me to say, you know what, I need to reevaluate if I'm actually being that friend to my friends so that they understand they mean as much to me as they do. So, and then some people I reached out to a little bit more and I had to pull that back in because it's not reciprocated. So either they're in their bubble and they need space, or, maybe the friendship served its time and it was just moving on, which you have that throughout life, the seasonal friends. So
it wasn't
small. Yeah, that was just a small part of the relationships, building and crumbling, I guess you can say. But a natural process, I don't know. I don't know how natural that is. I'm just saying life is life. You just kind of live it.
And so to let the listener know, and then of course, we've had these conversations, I've experienced that as well. So the falling away friendships, or the relationships, the building, rebuilding, the reconnecting, the rekindling. So for the relationships that made it, would you say that they've improved over each relationship that you had, whether it changes, right? It doesn't necessarily end, it's just different dynamics. So the dynamics that have changed and those that you're still engaging with, are you engaging in such a way that you feel more connected and it's quote unquote a better relationship now?
Yes, I would say yes. I've got the ones, you can say I always keep my circle small, but the ones that I can say this, my friends have definitely been upgraded.
Awesome.
Over the years from childhood to now, the friends that I have now, I wouldn't trade for any of them, any past or probably future coming in. The ones I have now are phenomenal. And even the ones who've pulled away and have gone, I would still, rekindle that if they reached out. It's not necessarily a complete cutoff or anything else. It's just that a respect of space and time and whatever's going on in your life, or, if it's just not a good fit, I'm not for everybody. I would expect to be everybody's friend. I can't be, I couldn't be, there's no way. but my group is very understanding of my train of thought. They accept me for who I am, even if they poke fun sometimes and laugh at my expense. It's all in good fun, because I know every last one of them would be right there in the trenches with me if I needed them. So
true story. Yeah. So this is so silly, but I have to get it out because it came to mind whenever you were saying this. You know, people, there's 8 billion people on the planet now. We're approaching, getting pretty close to. And when we say we're not for everybody, I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's trillions of cells within the body. And what came to mind as you were saying that is, well, you know, what if I myself am a brain cell and somebody else is a heart cell, right? Like maybe we want to interact, we want to be cool, we're friends, but there's no way that we can actually engage with each other because your purpose is to be and bring blood and tissue to the heart, and mine is to bring it to the brain. That doesn't mean we can't be friends. It means we just have different purposes, and we might not see each other or engage in relationship quite as often as we may be used to when we were being created. Silly analogy, because the body doesn't function like I just said. A brain and a heart cell don't come up to each other and talk. Unless you're watching Osmosis Jones, then you know, you have Chris Rock being a white blood cell and all that kind of stuff. It's a plug for the movie, funny movie.
Yeah, but you have the blood cells pass each other. So even though they might be headed to a certain organ for a purpose, they still pass each other in their way throughout the body. So they may not be heading to the same organ, but they'll still see each other in passing.
Exactly.
That's fine.
So thanks for entertaining my simple mind. So relationships are doing good, relationships are improving, we are connecting with the unconscious mind. So let's dive into that more a little bit. Is there anything more to add to that connection with your unconscious mind? What it meant to you? Was it important? How did you develop it? You're still kind of ongoing with it. Anything worth mentioning that we haven't hit on before with that?
Not too much. I mean, there's some things that I won't share, but it's I'll say the connection has made me a lighter person. When you have that inner child giggling and kind of communicating, and you can hear your inner voice in scenarios, it makes my fuse a lot longer for tolerance. You know, for if things are getting out of hand, I'm just gonna let it go versus step in and either just blow up with it or try to calm it down or whatever. Then inner child sits back and just kind of giggles and says, let's let this play out. So I just let people do their own thing. And then, you know, if something needs to engage, it's kind of trusting that gut instinct, that intuition, that inner child a little bit more. And I'm still learning to weed out the brain's voice from that one. So when I'm sitting there and it's like, you know, you've got a million things going through your head and you hear this other voice, it feels like it's just another voice in your head talking. So it's like I have to weed out to really actually listen to what's going on inside.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I totally get that.
And that's my lesson that I'm learning right now.
Yep. It's an important one, that's for sure. So say again.
It's a tough one.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta quiet that voice. Well, the other voices. And the sounds like need to be in a mental hospital. You know, what are these other voices in your head that you're hearing here?
Don't tease me with a weekend in a padded room.
Right.
I might actually get good sleep.
Right. I would want to go on a whole tangent there, but we'll save that for later.
Yep, dial it back in.
So repeating numbers, winning things, you had that little luck of the draw. Maybe some repeating conversations that were in there, little insights, people learning, anything along those lines popping up in order to elaborate on a little bit more of what those meant to you.
Well, sometimes you when you pay attention to that inner voice will tell you, you know, you you need to go play bingo tonight or whatever. Or I was scrolling through and I took a chance on a number that pays money. And for the IRS, if you're listening, it has absolutely nothing to do. It's just for fun. And the money's not real. It's monopoly money.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's one of those where you just kind of take a chance, and I passed it and it was like, buy that number. So I bought the number, and I pulled my bestie in and I said, hey, you want to go half? I really want this number. And she's like, yeah. And we won 1,000 Monopoly dollars.
What?
To
All that
use.
fake money. It's
Yeah.
like you can go to a fake strip club and throw fake dollars on
Yeah.
virtual.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But but it's kind of re-engaging that intuition that I might have passed that up and it would have got jumbled in my head where I don't know one number. Oh, wait, play this game. And then you start overthinking the numbers. Do I want, 1? Do I want 13? Do I want 40? You just keep going. You can't settle on a number versus cutting out all the noise and actually hearing the voice say, play this game number 1.
Yeah.
And you play it and 1 wins. It's like that kind of thing. And then, of course, I'll let you wait until you ask the question on the next thing. But it was interesting listening to it because I used to hear that voice all the time when I was younger. And to say that I was lucky back then, everybody that met me said, you have a horseshoe up your ass. I mean, I've gone to Vegas where I've gone through a whole 6-deck shoot playing blackjack and never lost a hand.
Wow.
Where I would be having a conversation with someone, pass a slot machine and say, hold on. And I would drop money in the slot machine and the slot machine would give me $300-400. And then I'd cash out and I'd say, okay, now what you were saying, and keep going. Wow. Like literally, I used to have that in my younger years. And I don't know why. I could pick things out and I'd be like, this is going to work. This is going to happen. And I could never explain it.
Right.
And when you lose that voice, you lose all of that. And so it's hard to win at things because your mind is so busy. You can't shut down the noise and actually hear yourself.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to relearn now, is to get rid of the overthinking and the constantly on the go, and let it go and just simply be and listen and pay attention to yourself. So it's huge.
We need to get you a baby pool.
No.
Pool, and then you can just float, and that's all you
already have one.
There you go.
I already have one.
Watch Stranger Things to be like 11, have a blindfold and just float in the water. We won't talk about the remote viewing and astral travel just yet. So that's pretty cool. So what you're saying too is it's an ongoing process. It's not anything, and that's kind of what I've learned that people find a little bittersweet as well, is that there's never this just stopping point, right? And they expect a stopping point, but then you think about it, it's like, well, if there was a stopping point, your heart would stop, your mind would stop, your lungs would, you'd be dead, right? Like we live in a world that is constantly evolving, that's constantly changing. Our body is in a constant state of homeostasis. I mean, literally, if we didn't have our skin, right, all of the shit that our skin holds into place would fall out. Our skin breaks and blood starts to come out, right? Like there's nothing can ever stop. Everything must be growing and working together. So you've got the horseshoe up your ass. You're lucky. You're getting
not completely back yet. It's not completely back yet.
That's what I was about to say.
Let you know what it is.
So we're getting back to that point of settling into you, of really trusting yourself again, right? Like getting to that point of trust again. And what's interesting here is from this conversation I'm hearing too, that trust redeveloped in outside relationships, right? Friendships and other relationships that you engaged in. Work is one of those relationships that was affected by this. Is there anything in particular that you want to mention as far as work goes, as far as dynamics or anything like that?
Just that I started setting boundaries. I think that I was letting work overrun my life, and I was literally working myself to the bone.
Yeah.
And I gave a lot of my time. So I would, go to work. If I leave, go to the gym, go back to work, and then work until I just couldn't hold my eyes open. And then I'd have to come home, shower, get ready for the next day, and then go back in, drag myself back in. And I wasn't getting that feeling from work of accomplishment or reward, or it just became, I don't want to say it, but almost like a beat down where,
Yeah.
You're constantly going because you think everybody depends on you. And, it's just, everything's gonna not, I don't want to say fall apart, but it's like, you've got deadlines to meet, and everybody has the same deadline, and you're only one person, and you're trying to do everything for them to get, because what they're, I'm not to go into what I do, but it's basically not everybody does it weekly. It's something that, when you're buying a house, you may only do it once or twice in your lifetime, if you're one of the lucky few that actually purchases a home.
Right.
So everything's on a timeline and everything's last minute. Well, I'm the last step in the process before they actually exchange money and keys. And that's usually when stress levels of everybody is high. Expectations are astronomically unreal. And I used to tell everybody I have an S on my chest and a cape behind me, because I've done this for many, many, many years, for a decade. And I started drawing boundaries, because I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, if I disappear tomorrow, it might take 2 or 3 people to replace me at my job, but they will. And I'm missing out on a life. So I had to make a decision at work that I'm gonna drop boundaries, and I'm not coming back after hours. I'm not working weekends. I'm not taking things home. If things go wrong at work, they're gonna have to make adjustments. Somebody else is gonna have to pick up the slack. I can't be the only one doing all of this. So I started setting up those boundaries at work, and they come down every now and again, because I'm the type of person that if I give you my word, I'm very genuine. So if I tell you you'll get it before I leave today, then if I don't get it done by the time I leave, I'll come back and you'll get it that evening after I finish my workout. But I do set that appointment. I don't ever skip my workout to work. I go do it and I come back and I finish it, or I'll take my laptop home and I'll go home, take my shower, and then I'll sit at the table instead of watching TV or playing on my phone or something. I'll do what I said I would do. So those are the exceptions to the rule, but I haven't worked a weekend in quite some time, because I need me time. I need space. I need to unwind, or else I'm going to have a meltdown. I won't be any good to anybody. So refilling my cup.
Yeah, 100%. You got to refill your cup, because nobody else is going to fill it for you. There's there might be a few. One thing that a couple clients, one said yesterday, and then I've noticed the NLP clients, then I've noticed as people go through this whole process, they start to notice the dynamics and relationships in those relationships and the dynamics in those relationships change. They start to notice changes within themselves, right? Being able to communicate with the unconscious mind, like you mentioned. And another really big one was the toleration. I use the word mediocrity. That's not everybody's word, but the toleration of bullshit, the toleration of negativity, the toleration of unconsciousness, of lack of awareness, like not necessarily being on top of your stuff, but paying attention. And the toleration for lack of those things becomes very high. Becomes very low, meaning it's tough to be around the super negative. It's tough to be around those that always have a problem for every solution. So you being in this high stress environment, the work that you're doing, all that kind of stuff, did you happen to notice any of these changes in your own being and structure while having really not necessarily your environment change?
Not necessarily during NLP anymore because anymore less than prior to, but I guess in my personality, I I try to look for the good and
Yeah.
everything. So if I'm sitting around somebody and they're down on themselves or they're this, and I'm like, it could mean this. If somebody's looking at a change in their job or moving a position and they're not happy about it, and I'm like, well, maybe if you can like reframe it for them, it gives their perception of what they're going through and they'll embrace it with a little bit more positivity. Um, so I've always been one of those, I don't want to say look on the bright side of things because I'm not all rainbows and sunshine, obviously, but I've always been able to not take that Debbie Downer spiral with them. So it's either I kind of, but I've been like that my whole life where it's either I can kind of either get you out of it or give you a different perspective. I say think outside the box, show all the sides of the box till there is no box.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's, spinning it in that nature. But I've done that prior to NLP, and I think that might just be part of who I am.
Yeah.
But to relate to the people that do the NLP and have the low toleration for it, I can relate to them every day in life on that, because there are some people who are just going to stay negative no matter what. Even if you come in and you say, good morning, I don't see what's so good about it. Okay, have a good day. You walk away. So it's kind of hard to engage that type or that level, I should say, of negativity, but it's definitely, the mediocre ones, those you can actually kind of have that conversation with, and it changes their perspective and they start looking at things and they get a little lighter, a little bouncier. And, sometimes I need that myself. My friends will provide it to me if I'm like just down,
Yeah.
well, not every day's up and up and up, but yeah.
Do the best with what you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
What other breakthroughs have you experienced? Do you remember experiencing during this coaching period?
Probably the next thing that was huge for me was I had an injury with my elbow, and it was something that was triggered from my back. And it was causing me to not be able to do the farmer's walks and some of the exercises at the gym. So when you and I started talking and through the NLP process, I kind of, whatever you said triggered me to start talking to the body. So at night, saying my prayers, and I was like, you know what, body? I said, we're going to get good rest tonight. And then I would start talking to it, telling it, we're going to, use this, I wouldn't call it fat, but like stored energy to redirect it to heal the elbow, to reinforce the knee, whatever it may be. I just started to listing off things, reduce sugar cravings, chocolate cravings. And it actually worked. So started saying it every morning, and I noticed that things started feeling better.
Yeah.
And then at night, when I would say prayers, I'd start thanking the body for doing what I asked it to do. And then it started getting even, I guess, better faster. It started healing even more. So then I'd wake up the next morning to feel better. And then eventually, like, the elbow doesn't hurt, and I didn't have to get the TENS unit on the back or the massages and all of that stuff that had healed it before, to try and work out whatever was going on. So to do that completely mentally with mind over matter and redirect the energy in the body to heal itself, it was a pretty interesting journey for me, and a pretty powerful lesson to learn that you have the ability to I don't want to say heal yourself, but pretty much heal yourself. I don't know if it would work on major like cancer and stuff like that, but I don't, it's worth giving it a shot. And it's like,
There is, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's a few other podcasts from influencers that I really enjoy listening to. Jim, he has a great podcast where he interviews a guy who, I think he had a tumor, and he was able to bring himself back to healing through the power of intention. And so you mentioned it, the body has the power to heal itself. You have the power to heal yourself, that lesson. Any other lessons come to mind from this experience? Because it's pretty damn big.
It is. It was huge with the elbow healing, but at the same time, I had entered into this little contest at work where they did like a 6-week weight loss challenge based on percentage of body weight lost or whatever. And I used that to reduce cravings. So, because I'm like a chocolate freak, love chocolate. So it's like
the blueberry Kit Kats that you got me. Rolling, man. Rolling. My birthday was recently, y'all, and Rhonda got me some blueberry Kit Kats among this amazing little cake, cookies and cream. It wasn't little, it was big. And the blueberry muffin Kit Kats were amazing. So she's a chocolate fiend, so am I. Please continue.
Yes. But that it actually, I did not crave it. And I was able to lose the weight, and I came in second place in that contest.
Damn.
So yeah, which was another $500. But it was interesting because it's like, I know if I put my mind to it, it'll get done, just like a task. But I never really looked at, like, if you put your mind to clean out your closet, you can clean out your closet. But if you put your mind to working out, you can work out. But if you put your mind to something that you're addressing internally in your body, it works too. So that was a nice little golden nugget that I pulled from the NLP experience. And all of this I wasn't even expecting. It was just kind of, one surprise right after another.
So that's perfect, because I was going to ask, what other breakthroughs have you experienced? So there was this unexpected, and I'm going to go through a quick little summary of what you've said so far. There was this inkling of, hey, maybe this is something that I should try, much like way back when you had this slot machine here, let me try this thing out. So you had this inkling to try this thing, and then what this thing allowed you to do was not only reconnect with yourself and your inner voice, which you haven't had that connection for a long time. It allowed you to win some money, actually enough money, if I remember, to cover the cost of this particular investment. And that's pretty awesome, because it's not like it was a cheap investment at the time. It was still the beta price, but it wasn't like it was the gym, a little over $100 a month. It was a bit more. So you made your money back. And I have to put this plug in there too, Rhonda, for that person listening, is every person that has done NLP has in fact attracted the money that they've invested with me, or a significant amount more, during our process together. So if you're looking to invest, but you're like, oh, I don't have the money, you'll make the money back, I promise. And so I had to plug that. So you made your money back, you got with the unconscious mind. Relationships that didn't serve you changed. Relationships that were beneficial to you got better. You were able to place boundaries up at work. You were able to get some more time to yourself during this process. Give to yourself more, start taking care of yourself more. I know that I'm forgetting a couple of things, but what else comes to mind?
When you cleared the big 5, even though I didn't have 5 to clear, it was kind of enlightening, because when I left, after you made sure everything was clear, I actually felt lighter, like physically lighter, but emotionally lighter as well. It was like you just kind of took everything that would normally trigger you, and it just disappeared. So it was like you walked out quite a bit lighter, knowing that if that conversation came up or that feeling came up, it wasn't a trigger for you to downward spiral. It was just an acknowledgement of the event happened and it's not current and it's not going to affect me currently. So clearing the big 5 was, I don't know, I might have had big 3. I don't remember exactly, but it's, yeah, I think I only had like 3 that were holding me back, but it was nice to clear that. And we did that after the timeline therapy, which was fascinating. So
one thing I did forget in that whole list of benefits was the one that you literally just mentioned, which was healing yourself. Mm-hmm. So you were able to heal your knee, your elbow, and then I ask you pretty often at the gym, but you're able to you still have that healing, right? Like it hasn't gone, you haven't regressed, like you're still recovered. Yeah, that's pretty insane. That's pretty amazing.
Elbow's great. I really need to redirect my energy to my knee, but that's an old injury, so I don't know how successful I'll be, but I'm gonna damn sure give it a try.
Oh, with that doubt, girl, Henry Ford, whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. Go re-listen to your podcast and you'll inspire yourself.
Yes, dear.
So you heal yourself, and then what you just mentioned again, right? The experience that you had with timeline therapy. So to harp one more time for the listener, she was able to heal herself with the intention and with the will of her mind and where she directed her energy. It wasn't any particular food, and it was nothing outside of herself. It was nothing outside of yourself, right? Like it was all just your direction of energy.
Amazingly so.
That's okay. Awesome. That's awesome. And then that helps you too, because like it's nothing outside of you, it's your mind. So the body is affected by the mind is affected by the body. So if you can make those two, it's kind of like the gateway experience, the hemi-sync, if you can get the 2 sides of the brain to work together, oh my God, if you can get the mind and the body to work together, oh my goodness. So the timeline therapy, so in NLP, now one of the things that I do is I give the clients kind of an idea of what they're going to be doing as they work through it, right? I didn't have that when we first started, meaning we're going to be doing some hypnosis, we're going to be doing some timeline therapy, and I'm going to be acting like a mirror. I'm going to be reflecting things back to you that you might not want reflected back to you, right? So one of the things that we talk about that lead to uncomfortable but progressive conversations, one of those things is timeline therapy. So for the person listening, what that is we don't really bring you into trance, but we can, like have you dive into a meditation, a hypnosis. And then what we do is, the way that I like to describe it, at least, is we use the imagination to go back into the unconscious mind, right? But what we're really doing is we're asking the unconscious mind, what is it that's deep inside and what needs to be cleared? So depending on the person, they'll go back into their past, and we'll just leave it at that, depending on the interpretation of the past that person has of themselves. And then we'll go back and clear things, meaning what can you learn from this unresolved emotion? And then once we learn everything that we can learn from that unresolved emotion, we come back into the now through a certain process, and then we double check to see if that emotion event has been cleared or not, meaning, is there any remnant of it? Does it have any charge left to it? So I remember specifically with you, it was just the one there out of the big 4 or the big 5, there was that one that we had some what's the right word for it? Some navigation with. And so you ended up feeling lighter. Was there anything else as far as timeline therapy goes that fascinated you, or you want to find worth mentioning, or you find worth mentioning here now?
I think what was most fascinating about it is that not only do you take it to the past and you look at the present, but you also point it to the future. So the conversations you're having are with that inner voice, and the excitement when she's talking about something in the future, and I say she, meaning me, but when you're like looking to the future, there's something inside of me that knows that something really good is coming, and that inner child is just bouncing up and down and is so excited that I can't make out the words because they're coming so fast. So when I don't know if you've ever been around people where their energy, they're happy, they're this, and then you might not be at their level, but then it doesn't take long being around it to get at that level. And you're like, yeah, I'm so glad I came because, blah, 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 whatever that may be. Imagine that inside yourself and trying to bubble out. So it's huge. When I looked at the past and recalled things, I could see it from a child's perspective, from that, and I say from a child's perspective, not necessarily the child in it, but the adult through the child's eyes. Because, of course, I'm a lot more mature now than the things that I've experienced when I was at the time. So to see that, it offers forgiveness, understanding, things that you maybe didn't realize at the time because your maturity level just wasn't there. So when you go through those things in the past and you're able to clear them, you accept them as an adult, but you feel it from the inside. And then the present day, to know that you're that adult, and I'm pointing up here to the head and everything, but you're that adult, you have that maturity, you've had all those experiences and everything else, but you still have that inner child inside. And you've got to ride that line between where you can satisfy both the adult in you, but the inner child still matters. And I can see that looking to the future, because that inner child inside me is just super excited. And there are things that I see for myself that I can't even explain or can't go into. Like, it's beyond my understanding or beyond my description capability, I guess you can say. I can't, I don't know. It's more of a feeling that you feel than an actual thing or place or event that you can describe.
Yeah. That
makes more sense than my gibberish.
It just depends on how somebody processes, but that made sense to me. So, isn't it interesting? One of my old coaches went with the 7, 14, 40-year-old. We have a 7-year-old inside of us. We have a 14-year-old, and then we have a 40-year-old. And of course, that's all different. It depends on the person. But during the periods of phases that we grow up, we have like I want to say it's called the imprint stage, the socialization stage, and then the actualization stage. They could be different depending on who you ask, but we interact with each of those, right? The 0 to 7 is that imprint. What were we imprinted with? What is it that we learn and we don't even know that we know from different authorities? Who is it that we became during our infancy and our teenage years? And then who is it that we become as an adult? And maybe it was you that said it the other day. I don't think it was. It might have been. But the difference between having to reparent oneself and discipline oneself, sometimes discipline doesn't always work, and we try to discipline, but our definition and the way that we move around discipline is not what's appropriate for us. It's more punishment, where discipline is now kind of being redefined in different fields as reparenting. Like, I'm not going to punish you, discipline. I'm going to reparent you in order to help you learn and serve you better. So it sounds like that's kind of some of the things that you touched on a little bit there, but then at the same time, there's this really jovial kid who's inside that is kind of happy the adult's getting it. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm. It's like finally being on the same page.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Oh, nice. That's huge, because so many people are incongruent. So many people are malaligned or ill-aligned, or however we want to describe it. That we talk about it at the gym all the time. They're overweight, they're poor, they're in unhappy relationships, they are living a dead life, that kind of thing. And so not using those words to describe anything that you were living before, but would you feel, would you say that now you're living a lighter, more fulfilling life?
I would say yes, but I've strived for that my whole life.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
necessarily, do I always look to be so heavy? NLP through the process has given me a redirection. That's what we were talking about the other day. And then you mentioned you had talked about somebody reparenting. You said it's funny that you said redirection because
That's what it
I
was.
don't necessarily, yeah. So when you and I were talking, you had that conversation with somebody else, but I had mentioned it. I don't know if it was later that day or not, but redirection, because sometimes you beat yourself up over decisions, or you beat yourself up over an event or something. Just if you look back, it's like the 5-minute rule, 5-year rule. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes on it, kind of deal. Redirection. So it's that redirection that I'm starting to do it versus being so harsh on myself. Listening to people from my past that have an opinion of me and letting that opinion sit with me for as long as it has isn't serving a purpose.
Right.
I had a conversation with my son the other day where I asked him something that I thought mattered to guys. I'm gonna say guys in general. And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. But that was something that I had held on to from the past, a perception that this is how I needed to be. And redirecting myself just by asking a simple question of a guy's opinion on this, could I let this go? And I was able to. So instead of being harsh and harping on things, I decided that redirection and more forgiving, more understanding would be in play. And that I did get from reconnecting with that inner voice, that inner child. And I mean, there's an adult in there somewhere, but we're not listening to her right now. So, but I enjoying the interaction within myself. And I know that I went into NLP with an open mind for everything and the possibilities in which you had offered, talking about spiritual and this, that, and the other. The biggest thing I gleaned from it was the changes within me. So it was huge. And the way that I'm processing things now is a little softer, a little easier, because I had been too hard for so long. So it's been great. I ain't gonna lie. It's been great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And to be thorough, are there any other breakthroughs or wins or things coming to mind that you experienced and that you want to share with NLP? I mean, those were pretty, I mean, that was pretty huge. That was great. I don't want to seem like I'm taken away from that, you know?
No, and I know you're probably trying to see if I can think of anything else, but right now, off the top of my head, I'm sure once the podcast is over, I'll be like, oh, I should have mentioned this. I should have mentioned that. I should have mentioned.
Damn it, you forgot it.
I can't help it. I probably should have made a note card or something. I don't know, but no, I mean, those are probably the biggest, and those are the things that I'm continuing to utilize and learn and grow with today. So if you went in and got nothing but that out of it, it's huge. So it's not, yeah, it's huge. It's worth it. And even if you just got one of those things out of it, just reconnecting with yourself is huge.
Huge.
But clearing the big 5 and feeling lighter, that's huge. If you get nothing out of it other than to remove your triggers, that's huge. To let go of past triggers or past feelings of whatever it may be, the fear, anger, any of the top 5, it's just huge. So yeah, but I ended up getting, I guess, because I came in with an open mind, just speculating, not saying it is because I came with an open mind, no expectations. Maybe that's why I was able to get so much out of it for me.
And so that's that's the thing that's I found bitter. Tough isn't even the right answer, because it's like, so a common theme in life has been overwhelm. And the reason why is because overwhelm is a perspective of appreciation in which we aren't appreciating fully all the abundance that we have. I probably butchered that, but people get into overwhelm because of all the abundance they have, right? And it can be stress, it can be this, but it's certain perspectives that you have. Oh, there's so much happening, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, so it's so much, it's abundance, right? So you've experienced so much. There's been this abundance that you've experienced, and it happened so quickly, right? I looked at it. We were 15 calls, so roughly 20 hours, somewhere along there, just depended, because each call will be anywhere between 60 to 2 hours, 60 minutes to 2 hours. And so you've experienced an abundance, a plethora of things, and you created it all too. That's the other piece, right? I only ask questions. You're the one who came up with the answers. You're the one who took all the actions. You're the one who implemented the words and the energy to heal yourself. So all of that taking place, it's amazing how much can happen when we apply ourselves and we're going. So before I ask you, who do you recommend this to? Was this strenuous? Was this stressful? Did this take a lot of effort and energy? Be honest. If there was points where it did, if there was points where it didn't, where you felt, what was that experience like?
The beginning, and I know we didn't touch too much on this, we just kind of glanced over it. In the beginning, when you ask the first initial questions, it's a little tough to dig up the past. And to share that with someone, to trust you enough to have things about me that very few people know. It's a little.
And so the learner or the listener knows she was willing to share. It wasn't like, you got to tell me this kind of thing. It's like, what are you willing and not willing to share? That kind of thing. So
right. So it's you struggle internally with making the decision on, what do I share? Where do I start? How do I go? So I just took a leap of faith, and I said, you know what? I've worked out with you for 3 years, almost 3 years at the time. And you haven't let me down yet. So I was like, you know what? I think I can trust him. You and I have had many conversations before. And I just said, you know what? I'm gonna lay it out and see, because I think I want to learn more than I'm worried about his perception of me. So I shared some things that I'm not going to repeat, but that was tough. That was tough opening it up. And it could just be me, because I'm I do keep my circle small. Who I let in, I'm an open book to, but the ones that aren't in, they know very little about me. Mm-hmm. So letting you into that, I guess you could say, inner circle, and open up to that level was a little difficult for me. So that was probably the hardest part. And I mean, you wasn't like you had comments or anything. You're just like, no, it is what you're telling me it is. So it's your experience, and you're just there basically documenting it. And then you ask the questions because you're more like the guide through the process, and it's me going through the process. But it took me several phone calls to actually realize that it was like, okay, this is my process. It's kind of like you have a tour guide to a town. That tour guide, you got 19 people on the bus, 19 people got 19 different tours, even though it was one guide saying the same thing to 19 people. So your perspective. So it took me, the first few phone calls were rough. Mm-hmm. Touched a lot on my dad, stuff with my dad. And once I got through that, I was able to just say, you know what, the worst of it's over. And then let's see where we go from there. And it worked out very much in my favor. So I'd probably say the hardest part for somebody starting out is come in with the mindset and the willingness to let go of whatever reservations you may have about opening up. The more open you are with yourself, the more you'll get out of it.
Why do we have to save that nugget till the end? Probably because no. I say that sillingly, and playfully. But if it was at the very beginning, within the first minute, people wouldn't appreciate it as much as them listening to our whole conversation and then hearing that.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know?
Mm-hmm. And it's true, because it's like, I'm going to get out of this the level of what I put into it. It's just like anything you do, but you know, you kept everything confidential, and it was difficult at first, but then, man, it took off after that. After the first three phone calls, and it was like I really started getting into the meat of the lesson that I needed to learn. So it was nice.
That's awesome. Good.
Mhm.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, that initial bit, it can be kind of heavy for that client, for sure, because we are bringing up things that are in the unconscious mind that you don't know what you don't know, right? Or you think that you process through something, and then there might be still a little bit of a charge there too.
Going back to, you said, or you asked, who would I recommend this to? Really, anyone that's looking for that. I mean, it can go from any age, but if you're sitting there, I mean, I wasn't looking for anything when I did it. So I was just typically curious, and what's this about? Let me go see. It's kind of like taking a class. Oh, I might like yoga. Let me go take this class and see what it's about. So I didn't really have a direction or whatever, but after experiencing the program, anyone, if you're curious like me, do it. If you need a little help because you feel like everything's weighing on you heavy, and you're not quite sure how to relieve some of that, clearing the big five and doing this is phenomenal. That inner curiosity with that spiritualness within me has me fascinated by timeline therapy. What I saw, what I felt, and it was more like what you feel than what you see, because what you see is more like haze and shadows and colors, but the feelings behind them are what generates it. So it's pretty fascinating to me on that I'm gonna say celestial woo-woo level.
Yeah, for
But,
sure.
I liked it. And then, of course, if you have ailments and you got a sore elbow that's been bothering you for a while, start talking to it. Start talking to the body. You'd be surprised how well that works. And then, and anything else, I mean, cravings and stuff like that. So who could do it? I mean, it could be anybody. If you have a troubled teenager, they could probably work through things, because it reconnects your head with your heart. I'm gonna say, lets that inner voice come out and have a voice, versus being conditioned by everything going on in society. So you can kind of reconnect with you and shut all of that out. It's nice. It's been great. I don't know what else to say on that end, but it's been good. So who would I recommend it to? Would be anybody, from just curious to I have an issue and I haven't been able to resolve it. Try it out, because you'd be surprised what you can resolve on your own with the right guide. Sorry, now you went from coach to guide.
It's perfect. It's perfect. That's where I'm headed, right? Like, soon enough, maybe I'll be a Sherpa. And I know, right? I got the hair coming in and be like, Eric, what happened to you? Be like, I found myself. So this was a great conversation. Was it as painful as you thought it was going to be?
No, I just, me, I'm nervous. I sit in the background and I don't really engage until I'm comfortable. So I know this is going to go out to your thousands of friends on Facebook and my little group that is going to see it, but and whoever else listens to the podcast in the world, but it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad.
Good. I'm glad. Is there anything that you would like to mention along your journey, fitness, NLP, your life, that you feel like the listener would want to hear? And then I have one more question after that.
Right. Well, I would probably just say show up for yourself as much as you show up for others. So if you show up every day to the gym, you're going to get the results you want. If you show up to try a program like NLP and you show up every day, you're going to get the results you want. I got results I didn't even know I wanted. So it's like, keep that open mind and show up for yourself. I mean, as much as you show up for your kids, your spouse, your parents, your friends, your family, your work. as much as you'll show up for them, show up for you. You matter. So if you don't think you matter, nobody else will.
You had so many good quotes there. The last question that I ask people on my interview, on my podcast, is something along these lines. If you knew that your words on a billboard would be seen by billions of people, could say everyone in the world. You've had this question, I think, in the gym too, but this is one that I got from the Tools of Titans and Tim Ferriss. He said, if you knew that your words, that a quote would be on a billboard and billions of people would see it, what quote would you have on that billboard? You just laid like 6 beautiful ones out, but if there was one particular, what would that quote be?
It would probably be Bob Marley's song, "Every Little Thing's Gonna Be All Right."
Every little thing's gonna be all right.
Stop stressing over every little thing.
Wait, which one? Because this is the title.
No, Every Little Thing. It's the song. It's
every
Bob Marley.
Gonna be all right.
Every little thing. It's the way a portion of his lyrics. Every little thing is gonna be all right. And it's to try and encourage people to stop stressing over every little thing. It'll work itself out.
Bam. There we go. Rhonda, any other words of wisdom or anything like that to leave our listener with?
Not today. Not today.
Right. So y'all, I would give you places to contact and reach out to Rhonda, but I'm not. So if you want to reach out and ask her any questions, hit me up, and then I'll see if she will let me give you her email. And then with that,
or come see me at the gym. I'm there
Monday, come see us at the gym.
Day and Saturday.
Yes, we have good times. We have good workouts. With that, Rhonda, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I have, we know how much I care about you, how important you are, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to let the podcast know. But with that, I do want to thank you for your time, for your patience, for your preparation, for your presence. I think that's all the P's, for the energy and for everything that you are and you've come to become and let go of through the journey of physical and through the NLP spiritual, non-physical stuff too. I think it's phenomenal. I think you're an incredible role model and person to learn from and to have example through. So keep that up. The people in your life they might have an idea, a couple of them, have no idea how blessed they are to have you in their life. So keep being you, keep shining bright, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And with that, for those that are listening, you're unstoppable. And Rhonda, so are you.
So are you.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.